Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My guest today here is Brian Gross, who is the founder of Back to Rock. Brian, it's so nice to have you here.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, Brian, tell me a little bit more about Back to Rock. What exactly started your entire journey into building this company, and obviously who you help?
Sure. So Bach to Rock is a nationwide chain of music schools. We have 60 open units today with another 10 in development. It is targeted towards all ages, but we serve primarily, I would say, children 4 to 17 and then adults. It is in retail settings like a supermarket, shopping center. And really, it was founded on the premise that learning to play music should be fun. So how we structure our music instruction brings joy to playing music, from things like having simplified arrangements when people are beginners so that they're able to actually play songs earlier, which brings more passion and motivation to them, but also playing whatever genre they want. So a quarter note is a quarter note, whether you learn it playing Bach or hip hop. So if you enjoy hip hop, let's teach you via hip hop. Because be more inspired because you're listening to the music that you love.
Awesome. And tell me a little bit more about the origin story. What was the light bulb moment? What was the key factor into getting you to start this whole thing?
Sure. Well, unfortunately, I can't take all the credit. The concept was founded by a middle school music teacher, Jeff Levin. Jeff, like most teachers, had to find a secondary income stream in the summers. So during the summers, he would do a rock band summer camps. And that became so popular that he eventually stopped teaching in the school system and started what became Bach to Rock. We came across it when one of my peers took his child to Bach to Rock, really fell in love with how Jeff approached teaching music. So we acquired it and then started growing it and expanding it.
That's so interesting. And how has it been now? Is there an online aspect of the business as well, or is it just mostly in person?
The majority of our lessons are in person, but we do also do online instruction. Most of it is around private lessons, one-to-one. The technology is improving for group online music instruction, but think about you have to synchronize the internet speeds for 4 or 5 different people so that the sound quality is what you expect. And it's definitely improving. I wouldn't say we're exactly there yet, but we're getting. And once that happens, then we'll be able to offer even more of our products and services online.
Awesome. And aside from the technical aspect of things, how has this whole online, obviously where everybody's online, especially kids in the young age, it's everything, it's all they do sometimes. How has that impacted the culture or the perspectives that the kids have when they come into a back to rock, sorry?
Sure. I've told many people that I believe right now we're in an era where music is as central to culture as it's ever been. It's in an empowering methodology. And you could say in the 60s, music was extremely central to popular culture, but it was a little bit more angst, revolution, Vietnam War, fight the man, that kind of concept. You know, you got Woodstock and a lot of great things out of it. But today, think about every single Mac Note product. Product comes with GarageBand. So kids are now able to record their own music, produce their own music, publish their own music to things like Spotify, Apple Music, a bunch of other, TikTok, YouTube. So really, you can become a writer, musician, producer, publisher, everything without having any help. You can do it all on your own. So it's just a really fascinating time. And music has really blown up. Retail sales of instruments is at or near an all-time high. Participation in music is high. Whether it's video games, TikTok, every other social media platform, music is central to their growth and to their popularity.
And it's so awesome you bring that up because I think that there's always two sides to the same coin, right? So the one is there's so much opportunity and so much freedom into what people and the youth can do now. But there's also the side of, hey, the same tool that can give them all these things can give them all these distractions. So it's interesting to see that for you, it sounds like it's been really a helpful thing and a helpful tool towards helping more youth and more people learn about music.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, there are always risks and downsides to social media and to everything.
Yeah.
And what they can be exposed to online, obviously for children in particular, can be somewhat scary. I'm the parent of 3, so understand that side of it. But when you just talk strictly from a music standpoint, you know, I will say, from a music, like copyright infringement and some other things of that nature, there's a little bit of a wild, wild west out there when you talk about the internet and social media. But in terms of the educational side of it, it's definitely been a benefit.
Awesome. And tell me a little bit more about the process of building what you have now today with Bach to Rock. What were some of the challenges that you had into making what it is today?
Sure. I mean, just like any startup business, you encounter a lot, right? So, for example, for us, we are in retail, which means we have brick and mortar locations. Obviously, not that long ago, COVID was around and people were going into retail environments. So, you deal with a lot of environmental issues that, you really don't have control over. 2008 and the housing crisis, people are more worried about, having a home than they are necessarily about other things. You have to deal with that kind of stuff. We've been fortunate, though, that music is still considered a core component to a well-balanced upbringing. So parents really want to invest in having their children learn to play music. And unfortunately, the school systems aren't viewing it the same. The cuts in music and arts and even phys ed and other programs that aren't math and reading and substantial. And unfortunately, folks, when I was younger, a lot of music was taught through the school system.
Yeah.
Isn't as available to folks today. So if they want to pursue music lessons for themselves or their children, they're forced to go into the service provider area like myself. The other component, which is really unique, is when I was growing up, you kind of had one activity at a time, and you did that one activity.
Yeah.
When an activity was over, you might have jumped into another activity. Nowadays, kids are doing 3, 4, 5 activities simultaneously. So whether it's music, karate, dance, sports, whatever, parents are definitely investing heavier in children's activities, and they're doing more and more at one time. And that's really been a positive for our business, obviously, that you're not waiting for basketball season end to take music lessons. Now kids are doing basketball, music, and karate at the same time.
Yeah, awesome. And thank you for sharing those. And when it comes to now, the challenges that you have, obviously they would be a little bit different than they were as you were building up. But what would be some of the things that they are trying to get over right now, or maybe some obstacles that are always popping in the way?
Sure. So we went to a franchise model after opening a number of company-owned locations. So we now have 2 kind of businesses. One is the 11 company-owned schools that we run and operate, and then another, 50 or so franchise schools that are owned and operated by others, but our job is to support them and help them grow. So it's really an interesting, dichotomy, because we have kind of 2 separate businesses under one roof. For us, where we see the growth of the business is on the franchising side. So we're continuing to try and not only help our existing franchisees improve, grow, and do a better job in their running their businesses, but also attract new franchisees to the system. Our goal is to ultimately have 400 Bach to Rock schools throughout the United States, and then eventually go overseas and open up internationally as well.
Awesome. And what's the number at, if you don't mind me asking, at the moment?
Sure. 60 are open today, with another 10 in the opening process. And that means they're either looking for real estate or they have a lease and they're in the construction process. So, we're getting there. We're getting
awesome.
there.
And how easy has it been to attract those franchisees and get people into getting on board with getting their own Bach to Rock?
Sure. I wouldn't call it easy, but it is a great business, right? It's a business that is passionate. It is enjoyable. Kids come in with big smiles on their faces. For those with the love of music, you really need to engulf your day in music. And then from a business standpoint, where we've really seen most of our franchisees come from is that they are former middle to upper executive level white collar professionals, always had a passion for music. So either they played music or they had a passion for music, and they've reached a point in their career where they want to do something that they love every day, as opposed to the job that they had, which they might have liked, but it wasn't a passion.
Yes.
So they find, buying a Bach to Rock and they get to do what they love every single day has been more fulfilling for them.
Very, very awesome. And it's interesting to see how so many, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's interesting to see how there's so many people across obviously North America, but the world that kind of just deal with a position and a job that they're okay with, but it's not so bad. But once they have that opportunity to hop into something that they really truly care about and are passionate, it completely changes their life, and it's awesome to see.
Yeah, it's one of the most rewarding parts of what I do.
Hmm.
Really am blessed in that when I walk into a school, I get to see the look on the kids' faces when they get to come in and play, or
Yeah.
the stage and they're playing. But then I also get to see the look and get to hear firsthand from the owners
Mm.
how much more fun they're having coming to work every day.
Awesome. And on the other side of that happy situation, what do you think are some of the mistakes that you think your ideal customers, so obviously the franchisee owners, that they keep making that prevents them from achieving the goal that they have?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think each individual can be a little bit different based on their own skills, personalities,
Hmm.
strengths, weaknesses. When you buy a franchise, I think it's important, whether it's Bach or McDonald's or anything,
Hmm.
you're buying a proven system. And
Hmm.
so in the beginning, I think it's really important to follow that system
Mm.
to the letter of the law, at least for the first year or two until you're really proficient and really understand and are expert at the business. And franchising is interesting, right? You have to be entrepreneurial enough to want to start a business,
Yeah.
but not so entrepreneurial that you can't follow a methodology.
Yeah.
And it's really an interesting split, right? A lot of
Hmm.
entrepreneurs will just start something on their own, and
Yeah.
it's a wild, wild west, right? But
Figure it out.
right. When you become part of a franchise, there are parameters and rules and structure around you being an entrepreneur. So I think that's probably my biggest piece of advice is follow the system
Hmm.
until you have success and until you really know the business,
Mm.
and work with the franchisor if you have ideas on how to improve it. I tell people, and I think this is a fact, I should Google it just to be safe, but I've been told this at a conference once, that the Big Mac was not invented by McDonald's corporate. It was actually invented by a franchisee.
Oh, really?
And, obviously that's become a core piece of who and what McDonald's is. So I tell
Yeah.
all our prospective franchisees, look, once you know our business and you're successful at it, I'd love to hear the next great Big Mac idea for Bach.
Yeah.
But I don't want it day one when you really don't know what you're doing yet.
Yeah, that's really awesome, and thank you for sharing that analogy. And it's interesting because I believe, and again, I should Google this as well, but I believe that Big Mac is about 80% of McDonald's sales now. So I don't know if this is correct, but I think it could be. So I mean, if it's wrong, then I'm wrong. But it's definitely a large amount. And you actually answered the follow up question that I would have, which is what are the things that they all do right so that it sets them up for success, which is just hey, do the thing that you're supposed to do, and then we'll talk about new ideas and everything else. Because by then you obviously already have that foundation to be able to build what you want. And in these, how many years has it been now since Back to Rock has taken place or come alive?
Sure. So the concept of Bach to Rock started in 2007. That's when we bought the first school from Jeff, the middle school music teacher.
Hmm.
We started franchising in 2013.
Mm.
So I would, that's kind of 2.0.
Hmm.
Before that, we just had 5 schools company owned in the DC market. But in 2013, that's kind of when we started the push for growth.
Oh, awesome. So it's been about 15 years ish of a journey so far from the
Yeah.
beginning. Of course, talk to me about some of the biggest lessons, maybe two, three biggest lessons that you've learned
Uh-oh.
when it comes to building a company.
You froze on me. Hey, you know what? Those things happen. We were talking about the internet and the pros and the
I
cons.
know. Let's get back to where we were here. So talk to me, yeah, about some of the lessons that you've gathered and that you have been able to really make a part of your life since starting Back to Rock.
That's a deep one.
Yeah.
And this job has tested me in many ways. And when you start a business, in many ways, we started this business even though we acquired it.
Hmm.
Uh, you're really having to do such a wide range of skills and test yourself in so many different ways.
Mm.
In any given day, I'm working in an HR capacity, in a sales capacity, in a marketing capacity, in a finance capacity. Um, you're testing yourself in all of your limits. And I think where I've had my most success is understanding where my strengths and weaknesses lie and building a great team around me that that picks up where I can't be as good as I'd like to be, and being able to empower them to really carry the torch and to run the business as if it was their own.
That's so awesome. And what's one trait that you always look for in a new hire you're trying to make that kind of gives away that they will be the right person for the position that you're looking for?
The one thing that I look for first and foremost in any position is drive. You can teach people almost anything, especially related to our business. And in life more and more today, I would say, going back many years, you really had to have a very specific skill set in most jobs. You know, an accountant, a doctor, there are some that you want them to be very well trained and educated in their field. But in business, a lot of it you can learn. And a lot of it you can learn on the job, whether it's market. I mean, think out how much things have changed. Marketing. So I have a MBA in marketing. I was classically trained consumer packaged goods with P&G and Kraft. Everything I did in my entire career is almost worthless now because the internet, social media, everything else didn't exist back then. And think of how different marketing is today.
Yeah.
Even TV, right? We did TV. There was 3 major networks in the United States, and you did commercials. Well, TV is completely different now with streaming and everything that happens. So you're kind of learning on the fly in many cases anyway. Developers, new languages are constantly coming out. You know, you're constantly learning. So for me, someone with drive will learn along the way. If you don't have the drive, I don't care what you know.
The snowball effect will ever occur, right? That's so interesting. And it's I've heard before that, I don't remember the exact quote, but it's when you're looking at someone to actually fulfill a position, is you can tell from the get-go if they have the potential of being an A player. And if they do, then they can go down the line and achieve what you think that they can achieve and obviously fulfill their own goals. But if they don't, and they only have that potential, and like I see potential in them, there's a very low chance that they will achieve what they want to achieve and obviously what you want for the company. So it's interesting to see that being measured through drive, because I think it's such a key thing to pinpoint in how they will perform in the future. So it's really awesome that you brought that up. And as a final question here for you, are you familiar with Stephen Bartlett from Diary of a CEO?
I am, yes.
Yeah, so in his podcast, I kind of stole something from him, which I think is very, very awesome, is he grabs a question from the previous guest to the next guest, but they have no idea who they're asking the question to. So I would love to ask that question to you right now and obviously hear your response.
Sure.
So the question is, how do you tackle challenging times when the business may need to completely change or pivot?
So I think there's a couple pieces to that. One is my team and I constantly think about how to change the business. We are probably too much so. We actually strategically plan twice a year, which is a little much, but it's because of the evolution of things and making sure that you're staying in front of it. So for example, we have redefined our physical footprint multiple times. We have redesigned how technically we support teaching multiple times and pivoting to online, those types of things. So I think one is having a culture that understands this is going to be part of the DNA of the company, that you are not a static widget that will be a static widget 20 years from now, that we are a living, breathing organism that will be different tomorrow than we are today and the day after and the day after. And as long as everyone sort of understands that philosophy going in and thinks that way, I think it certainly helps you be more successful at it. Now, change is change. Change is always hard. People always struggle with change. But if it's part of your DNA, it comes a little bit quicker and a little bit easier.
Awesome. Ryan, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you obviously sharing your insights and talking about Bach to Rock. Where should people go if they want to learn more about what you do and obviously keep up with what you guys have going on at Bach to Rock?
Sure. They should visit bachtorock.com, BACHTOROCK.com, or any of our social media platforms.
Awesome. Ryan, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.